My friends, they finally got me. I found my Factorio, my satisfactory, where I bounce off most management sims. I've finally been losing sleep to dotAGE. Hello everyone, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy what I do, including my ongoing coverage of all sorts of different turn-based strategy titles, including the wonderful indie game dotAGE, then a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So we're finally here with the last of the games that we were covering as part of Turn-Based Thursday Fest. At time of recording, the fest has now wrapped up. I meant to get this video out sooner, but I have sunk a lot of time into dotAGE, not only trying to learn about it, but just being really obsessed with it. Nearly 20 hours, as a matter of fact, at time of recording, so that kind of delayed the video a little bit. My apologies on that. However, that's a very good sign for the game itself because it is a ton of fun, an absolute blast to start sinking your teeth into. The general premise is that you are a village elder who has prophetic visions of the apocalypse, and you are leading your people to a new land to try and build up a settlement and a society that can withstand that apocalypse. To do that, you'll direct your villagers, known as pips, to do any and all sorts of different tasks, everything from gathering berries, to mating, to cutting firewood, to praying to the gods of nature to prevent earthquakes, and everything in between. You'll accomplish this by spending time researching new different types of buildings and also just digging through your own memories to figure out just what the heck it is that you're supposed to be doing in the first place. And over time, you'll start being contacted by the primordial gods themselves, letting you know, hey, I highly recommend that you get prepared for it. As you can probably tell, dotAGE is a town management survival simulator roguelite, where runs take quite a long time, but you unlock a ton of stuff through each run as you progress. And you'll need to, because I'm not entirely sure how viable it is to even survive your first few runs without having all of the upgrades you're probably going to need to handle the challenges that get thrown at you. Gameplay progresses through turns as you slowly build up the town. There's no direct combat or anything of the like. You're really just managing everything to make sure you have enough food, have enough water, have the supplies that you need to build the buildings that you need, and getting not only the tech upgrades, but those buildings built in the timely fashion that you require them in, so that you can actually counteract whatever threats are going to be coming your way. You have random events where pips will decide to love each other, hate each other, or just decide to be rebellious little shits and prevent anything from actually happening the way that it needs to happen. Nature itself will strike you down or grant you boons, and with each new turn and each new unlock, you'll gain a lot more knowledge to be able to better plan future iterations of your town. If as a premise that sounds good to you, I will have a link to the game's Steam page in the description. I do highly recommend that you go and check it out. If you're at all into this type of game, it is an addictive one for sure. But that's the general premise. So as usual, our video structure will be as follows. We're going to talk about the story very briefly, the art and visuals, the sound effects and OST, and then dive a bit more into the mechanics before giving my overall thoughts and criticisms. As far as the story is concerned, I pretty much already told you everything that you need to know. The apocalypse is coming, random events are going to occur as a result of that oncoming apocalypse, and you're trying to build up a town that can survive it. That is literally it. There's a little bit of stuff to learn about the Elder himself and maybe some sort of time loopy shenanigans that's basically just a throwaway excuse for the existence of the roguelite mechanics. That's it. This is a mechanics-based game. Don't look too deeply into it. As far as the art and visuals are concerned, though, it is obviously an extremely lovely-looking little title. Classic pixel art, bright colors, lots of fun little animations of the pips running around, doing their thing. It's very readable even as your town starts to get very cluttered, which is a very good sign, and all of the menus and overall design and style of the game is very pleasing to the eye. It can always be an issue with games like this, where with all the menuization and different sorts of icons for different events that are happening or different types of units that are doing different things can get very, very cluttered. So unless when you get into the absolute late game, it gets worse, I think there's a very well-handled version of that type of system. It's very nice to look at. I very much enjoy it. It is funny, though, how much the overall cute pixel art style kind of winds up creating a clash, I think very intentionally, with some of the really nasty events that start to happen. Like, for example, I had an event that I failed, and one of my pips literally just went on a killing spree and slaughtered 5 of my other pips. It was a brutal knife fight, and it was just so funny to see it happen in these cute little pixel styles where they pull out a knife and everyone's just like, oh, and then they just get slaughtered. Like, it's just goofy and fun, and I very much enjoy it. But the majority of the time, it's just a cute little town simulation game. It's very fun. One of those types of things you can very easily have seen, like back in the 90s, your younger brother or sister being allowed to play because your parents didn't know any better, and then they run up to you later and they're like, "Ah, my pips are killing each other," and you're like, "What? That's okay. Just don't let mom and dad hear. It's fine." It's a very good style. It suits this type of game very well, and I very much enjoy it. For the SFX and OST, this is where some of the real, I think, addictive brain chemicals start coming into play. It reminds me a lot of The Sims, Stardew Valley, and other similar types of titles where you have very satisfying pops and clicks and menu noises as you're clicking around and building things. All the pips will chatter along in a very Sims-like manner, and the Elder will run around and yell at everybody in his more crusty voice as you're trying to get things done. The OST is extremely catchy, and while there isn't a ton of variety in those tracks, they're crafted in such a way that I don't think you'll ever get tired of hearing them, even as you're looping through iteration upon iteration of different types of villages. It's definitely something that I can see having on as background noise for other projects that I'm working on, D&D games and the like, and it helps add to that feeling of a cozy village atmosphere while also having ominous tones at times when the gods have decided to start smiting you down. Finally, though, we will talk about the mechanics, and it's not going to be a super in-depth discussion because, again, the game on its face is quite simple. It's more about the learning progression of understanding when and where you need to be doing things, but the mechanics themselves are very straightforward. As we mentioned, you start off as a standard town management sim until the elements decide to come to life and start trying to kill you. Then you're juggling town management and the gathering of counter elements to put those gods back to sleep or at least counteract what it is that they're trying to do. You start off with the absolute basics: some fruits, some wood, 4 pips, and a town hall. And you have to start building things up to support those pips and start getting more infrastructure online. You'll start building houses, wood cutting camps, gathering berries that are around the map, and eventually maybe hunting animals or building your own berry foraging stations. As you send pips to breed and make more of themselves, you'll start to see how your needs are beginning to increase. Well, we need to get more food, so we need to build more advanced food production facilities, but to maintain that, we're either going to need more woodcutting camps or better woodcutting camps. To get those, though, we need to research how to actually make them, so we need to make some spots for pips to sit and think and do research, which is obviously going to take manpower away from managing those resources. And you'll start playing the juggling game of watching how your resources are going up and down on the left side of the screen to see what you can get away with on a day-to-day basis. Maybe one day a pip's going to be doing research, but the next day you might have a food shortage and they're going to be on foraging duty. And you'll have to play each turn kind of balancing everything to make sure you're getting everything that you need to done in the most efficient manner as you can, so that once the elements do come to life, you at least have a little bit of a solid baseline to start building from. As I'm sure you can imagine from any experience with any sort of other management sim, this will get much more complex to the point where you're going to need wood to fire the furnaces so you can make copper, so you can build the cooking pots that you need to put in water and boar meat from 2 other different production facilities, so you can start churning out massive amounts of soup on a mass scale to feed as many pips as possible. Same thing with bread. If you're going to start doing bread, you're going to need to learn all the different things that go into tilling the fields, growing wheat, making a windmill, making a bakery, having the tools to be able to have your different characters that are going to be managing each of those plots, like farmers and millers and bakers, be able to get what they need. So you're going to need to have the raw materials on hand to make those tools and train the workers who are going to be making those tools. Then you're going to need to have cobblestone roads, which are going to require a quarry and the research to be able to make those to connect from the mill and the bakery back to a home for the baker to travel back and forth to. And that's just one admittedly more complicated iteration of a lot of other different types of subsystems in the game that are going to require a ton of different resources like that. And it might sound extremely overwhelming at first, but the game is going to be very good about slowly building you up to that point. Key is just going to be making sure that you have pips on research duty at all times whenever possible, so you can get as much research done as possible and have those buildings available for when you need them and not stuck trying to research them just to build them while you're like getting borne down on by an incoming plague or famine or something. So that's the management side, but how about this whole like counteracting the elements side? Well, that's where things start to get very interesting. Periodically, either events will happen, such as a bunch of pips getting sick, that will add a amount of sickness to a bar that you have to counteract with your own health input. That can either just be from having healthy pips from lucky events, or from having doctors that are creating medicine and bandages, that type of thing. Now, these bars can fluctuate from all sorts of different events and what management things you're doing, but periodically, the elements will awaken and become a threat, and you'll actually start having a lot more points put on the negative side of the bar just arbitrarily for a set number of turns, and your goal is to try and counteract that, because at the end of that set number of turns, you're going to roll the dice, and you're going to see if you win or you lose, and obviously, the higher your percentage of the bar is filled, the more likely it is that you're going to be the one who wins, and this is key. Not only Do you prevent more bad things from happening if you win the roll, i.e. like more characters getting sick if we're talking about our health bar, but also you'll get other benefits such as maybe more pips joining the town arbitrarily and having more manpower, finding a hidden cache of food, or everyone getting happier, reducing other elements from their power levels. All sorts of different things can happen, and the flip side can happen on the negative. So a huge part of your effort is going to go into having infrastructure and forethought to counteract these problems before they even arise, or just fight them back once they really start laying into you and adding tons of points beyond what you might normally be able to handle without having a reserve of points to back it up. This adds a lot of challenge and sometimes frustration to the game, but I do really enjoy it because there really is nothing better than a race against the clock for 8 turns, trying to build up as many resources as you can to counteract a giant heat wave, and you're building fans and water pools and doing rain dances and doing everything that you can to keep everyone cool and push back that heat, only to then be rewarded for your efforts either through a lucky dice roll or just through completely overwhelming the bar and guaranteeing that you'll get success. The name of the game is preparation here, and that's where game knowledge winds up becoming so important. Of course, given that there is such a focus on replayability here, you're going to want to make sure that there's like enough to keep things interesting, and that absolutely does exist. You have multiple different elders, map layouts are randomized and have a lot of different iterations on them as you start to get more upgrades. There's random buildings that add different paths to handling different systems. Like for example, you can have windmills to generate cool, or you can have puddles for people to play in that can generate cool. And as far as I've seen thus far, they are not going to be in the same campaign together, and they do function differently and require different resources. So you're going to need to change your production path and how you're managing things to accommodate what combinations of different elements and buildings you have during any given run. Add on to that, there are multiple difficulty modes and there's DLC as well, and if you're into this type of game, you are going to have many hours of management fun if you decide that you're really going to get into it. As far as my impressions are concerned, you can probably tell from this entire video, I'm absolutely loving dotAGE. I've really never been a big management sim kind of guy. I like Stardew Valley because it's very cute and has more of like an RPG element to it, but something that's just more raw mechanical management, not as much my scene, but dotAGE has grabbed me in a way that no other title like it has. It's insanely addictive, and it is very fun. It's absolutely something that I'm going to be able to go to in the future as just a game to spend a couple of hours on if I have literally nothing to do and I just want to be able to sit back and relax with something chill. It's going to be a great option for me with that. Loop Hero used to be my game for that, and I've 100% of that game twice, so that tells you how much I like having that type of thing in my repertoire. That said, there are a couple of major pain points that I feel are worth bringing up here, especially if I'm otherwise recommending the game so heavily. The first is, again, that need for predictive knowledge. This is a game that really does not expect you to find success at any early point in your playtime with it. Again, I'm 20 hours in on my 3rd village, and I'm pretty sure I'm still not going to make it to the end with this village, even though I know so much more and I've unlocked so much more. The game scales up extremely aggressively, and you're going to hit points where you feel like you just need to get more things unlocked to be able to survive the sheer overwhelming power of the elements as they start really hammering into you with massive amounts of influence that's very difficult to counteract. Now, granted, part of that is the fact that I'm playing on hard because I'm me, and the game does recommend that you might have a much harder time getting into the game if you start off on hard, but even then, I've been loving it. I'm open to the challenge. It's just, you definitely need to be someone who's going to be able to think about your past failures and begin working off of those as early as possible so that by turn 150, you don't find yourself in a major deficit that you have no way of clawing yourself back from. Second of all, and one that I feel is much more important and really, unless there's just something I'm missing, there's not much of an excuse for, I've found that certain random events that can occur either just to the pips acting up because they can just do that, or from the elements and their omens putting different effects on you, you can have problems inflicted on you that you haven't unlocked the tech to fix. For example, and the one that made me want to bring this up, I had an event happen where one of my pips was injured for 20 days. That's 20 turns. That is a very long amount of time. A campaign goes for 280 turns. Like, that's not an insignificant amount of time when you're trying to eke out every advantage you can from every resource that you have available. And unfortunately for me, this pip was one that was very important. He was one of only 2 professionals in the particular job that I had, and it made me need to essentially configure my entire economy in the way I had my pips structured so that I could make sure that I was keeping up with the resources that I needed. Now, you would think, okay, I mean, that's fine, but wouldn't there be a way to fix that? It's an injury, right? And I thought the same thing. I had medics, I had doctors, I'd made bandages and medicine, and I had all that infrastructure built up, but I didn't have the tech to specifically heal injuries. I had bandages that could fix bleeding, but he was not bleeding, he was just injured. He was not sick, he was injured. I can fix sickness. So he just sat there for 20 turns doing nothing, while I had to basically write him off as dead and then just was able to bring him back in and have him do menial tasks that were all he was really suited to by the time I was ready to get the whole village back online. It was very frustrating, and I did a bunch of Googling to make sure that I wasn't just missing something, and the answer that I seemed to get was that sometimes you will just wind up having something happen that you have no recourse to handle. And in most games, I'm okay with that because, you know, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. But to me, dotAGE and games like it feel very much like they give you the tools that you need to succeed, and it's on you 100% to know how to handle what is going to potentially be coming. But if something can happen to you that you just have no way of doing anything about, not even like I didn't know this was going to happen, but I know it can happen and I just don't have the means to fix it, that's frustrating to me. I'm not a huge fan of that. It hasn't happened a ton in my first 20 hours. I'm hoping it doesn't continue to happen until I unlock more tech, but it is something that I wanted to bring up because it definitely made me very frustrated when it happened the other day. Beyond those 2 points, though, dotAGE is absolutely a phenomenal experience. I cannot recommend it enough if you're at all into this type of more cozy, but also sometimes very intense management sim. It's very cool, and it's very cute and very obviously soulfully inspired. There's a lot of love and cute writing and overall spirit in the game that is very important to keep a game like this interesting and emotionally attached, at least for me. I know it's not important for everybody, but that's where I bounce off of games sometimes. If I can't make a connection to it and its world, then I'm usually not going to last. But dotAGE, it's got me good, and I cannot recommend it enough. Again, if any of this has interested you, I will have a link to the game's Steam page in the description. Not sponsored or anything, just wanted to shout it out and make sure more people get their eyes on it who might be interested in it. For now, though, I am going to wrap this one up here. My name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. If you have experience with the game or you decide to pick it up after watching this video, strike up a conversation about it in the comments. I'd love to chat with some of y'all, especially some of you who I'm sure have put a lot of time into it and can maybe give me and others some advice. Would be very much appreciated. With all that said, though, I hope that you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there, everybody. And remember, be good to each other, y'all. Bye now.